Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Husker.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
It happened again. Same score, back-to-back weeks, 25-24 Bears, with a win over Washington, and voila. The Bears are on a 3-game winning streak. On a short week, they'll host New Orleans Sunday at Soldier Field. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. We discussed today on episode 177 of the Bears Etc. podcast. This episode of Bears Etc. brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of your Chicago Bears. Just ahead, our weekly visit with Bears head coach Ben Johnson. Tom, it was an exhilarating win, I think you would agree, in so many different ways. From the 13-0 lead, we're thinking big, to digging a bit out of a ditch for a stretch in the game, to staying close enough to be ready for anything, and the fumble recovery by Nahshon Wright to get the ball back to set up the game-winning drive for the game-winning field goal by a newcomer kicker, nestled on the practice squad. We're talking Jake Moody, the former third-round pick out of Michigan, incredible rookie season in San Francisco, kicked in the Super Bowl, to getting cut. Some of his new teammates never met him until they carted him off the field on their shoulders. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a regular Rudy story. But for the most unpredictable sport in the world, you have an unpredictable ending that's only happened 20 times in over 18,000 games in the NFL, and it happens twice with the Bears. So when you think about everything that's going on, it's a fun week. It's a short week, and we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but this 30-minute podcast, and let's get ready for New Orleans.
Right, you're talking like a coach. I like it. I was joking on the final call because just the exuberance, the exhilaration of that moment. We don't even know Jake Moody. Haven't met him yet. But it was not to be disrespectful at all to him, because he's been in some big, high-leverage situations like the Super Bowl, and he has a great pedigree. It was more a lighthearted point about how this league, there is no advance warning, and nobody's taught me better than you about no advance warning. You bring it all the time. You're in, and there are no excuses. You perform or you're in trouble. Back-to-back games, though, with 4 field goals for the Bears. It'll be something we discuss with Bears head coach Ben Johnson here. This is the number 10 scoring team in the NFL right now, Tom, and you factor in 8 field goals the last 2 games. That could be, just say, even a percentage of those are touchdowns, and now you're really rocking the scoreboard.
Yeah, but you get back to the 13-0 lead and what we are thinking and talking about behind the scenes. I wasn't secure in the thought that they had a 13-0 lead, but I wasn't afraid of a 13-0 lead because of where the Bears can go in terms of scoring points. And I think that's what makes this sport so great. It is unpredictable, even though you have a lead, but then you have to take in consideration the factors of your opponent. And number one is Jaden Daniels and what he's capable of. So you talk about a game that went down to the final seconds. That's all part of the reasoning of why it's unpredictable, but it keeps you at the edge of your seat. I've talked to more people today that said this game kept them up easily to the end of the game, and then they had a hard time falling asleep, and that's what I love to hear.
How about this one? Niece by proxy of our friendship, my daughter Kelly, sent me a text. Oh, Dad, she turned it off with 3 seconds to go. She didn't even wait. She went to bed. We got to have a talk with this young lady. What was she thinking?
But
we had the ball.
I'm as guilty as that as she is, and there's other sports that that I fail to pay attention to the end. I lose my interest. I get angry and all those types of things. It just it factors in the way I watch sports.
I can't imagine. Yeah, she was tired. She was going to bed. Okay, lesson learned. How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? Well, with the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. All right, let's get to the head coach, Ben Johnson, his weekly visit with us. All right, thanks, Ben, once again. How you feeling today? On limited sleep?
Yeah, super fresh, super fresh. No, we're in a good spot though. On to the next one. It's a quick turnaround here, going on to from a win like that. Emotional at times there, but we got to keep this thing rolling here. So it's already met with Caleb and we're on to New Orleans.
It's funny. You and I talked pregame and talking about Antoine Randall, speaking to the team on Saturday about hope, to believe, to expect. And wouldn't you know it, after the game, came up next to me, whispered in my ear, man, we expected to do this. We expected. And I was like, okay, this is really downline. This is a veteran player.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, and I think we all knew, too, going into it, that no one was picking us. Everyone was picking Washington. And it's just a little bit more fuel to the fire for not that we need it, but,
right.
We all hear it, and it was good to see them respond like that.
So here's something crazy. The Bears, the second team ever to win consecutive games by 1 point and the same final score since 1926. And, you're a football guy. So the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, they predated the Eagles. They're a Philadelphia-based team. They won 7-6 over the Detroit Panthers and, believe it or not, the Chicago Bears.
Holy cow.
I don't know who comes up with this stuff, but that's what happened.
It's history. It's history. Yeah.
It is. You cannot erase history. Okay? So that's history. So take that one with you. But a sweet moment in the mist for Jake Moody. I saw that written by a national writer. I thought, wow, what a perfect backdrop for a little story in his chapter of NFL life right there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, it's almost surreal he had no idea going into the week that he was going to be the guy. I mean, none of us did. And found out at the end of the week that Cairo wasn't going to be able to go. And so you get thrown into the fire just like that. And yet he didn't skip a beat. I mean, he was made for it, you felt like. And so, I thought Coach Hightower did a great job just getting him ready to go, not just for the field goals, but obviously for the kickoffs as well. And, his teammates had a lot of belief in him. HT showed some clips of him in San Francisco making huge kicks in huge games the night before the game. And I think all of our guys kind of perked up a little bit. Okay, this guy's the real deal. We knew he had a big leg, and yet he also looks to be clutch as well, which is a huge word for a kicker.
No question. Longest Super Bowl field goal by Jake Moody. Back-to-back games with your kickers, 4 field goals each. Now, I know as an offensive play caller, too, you're thinking, okay, now, so we're top 10. We're a top 10 scoring team right now. Turn those field goals into touchdowns now. We're cooking with oil.
There's no question. That's exactly what Caleb was just talking to me about. He's like, man, can we get these? I mean, we're in the red zone 3 times last night, and we only come away with 1 touchdown. And so we got to turn that around. I felt really good about our red zone plan, too. That's the shame of it, and yet we tend to not capitalize on those opportunities. So we'll come together as a staff, make sure we're good to go going into this week, and see if we can't reverse that trend.
Yeah, that foundation for the red zone, do you think it's set? Like, do you build plays off of what you are successful at, and can you grow that with these guys sooner rather than later, I guess? Because would you say that is one of your specialties, is red zone?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that the analytics guys would tell you is an unstable success. So from one year to the next, just because you're good one year doesn't mean that you're going to be good the next year. Well, kind of take that as personally, like, okay, we'll see if we can't, turn that in our favor. And so we have a philosophy that we believe in here in Chicago, and yet, it's still early, so I think we can get this thing turned around and make sure that we're capitalizing and scoring touchdowns when we get down there. So I think we're really close, and I think we all just need a reminder what that philosophy is so that we can come through with it.
I'm not smart enough to understand all the analytics. I'm telling you that right now. But the EPA thing is when you first got here, right? You brought that up. How's that going?
Well, through 4 games, we were pretty even. We were middle of the road on offense, middle of the road on defense. So overall, it wasn't a huge win or loss predictor for us. I'd say yesterday we were actually on the losing end of that. And so Washington had a much higher passing EPA than we did. And yet, because we were able to get the 3 takeaways and we didn't give the ball away at all, that kind of flung everything back our direction. And so, that stat is the number one indicator. Well, turnovers is number two. And so you kind of go back and forth a little bit with that, and not to get too deep in the weeds. But, it is something we're conscious of. And I do think we left a little meat on the bone, I said earlier today, in terms of that passing game. There were probably some short completions that we could have turned into some big ones.
So with Swifty, 175 yards from scrimmage, outside runs, according to Next Gen Stats, 8 for 91. What's that speak to?
Yeah, no, I think he did a great job. He was a lot more decisive hitting the hole, and I think it really starts with those guys up front. They were as clean as they've been all year, coming off the ball, trusting their combinations, taking the correct angles, and I thought we had some good things there designed schematically in the running game to look to slow down their linebackers, their aggressive group that likes to hit it downhill and take you off your combinations, and some of those motions worked in our favor and slowed them down a little bit. And so we created some creases in there, and I think Swifty took them and ran with them. That, and to go along with those toss cracks that came up big for us as well. I mean, I think they played right in his wheelhouse.
And 9 for 87 in a loaded box.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and the crazy thing was, going into this game, most teams that played us in too high because we just haven't been able to run the ball very well, and so that was been their plan of attack. I thought we'd get more of the same last night, and yet we got a lot more single high than I anticipated, just like you said, and yet it happened to be our best running performance so far this year. So a little counterintuitive on that one.
Are your personnel packages and the use of these players tied to what the defense is doing as it's unfolding, or what you want to do to the defense?
Yeah, it's how we want to attack them that week. And so some weeks we'll be going in and out of personnel groups constantly throughout the game. Other weeks we're kind of, like last night, we really stayed in one personnel group for the most part. We kind of would go for receiver, tight end for tight end in terms of the substitutions. But for the most part, we were in the same package of how many guys we had out there. And so, each week's its own entity, and we felt like last night we wanted to live in that 11 personnel world with our 3 receivers out there and look to take advantage of their nickel defense.
And I know you love Yak, so 195 yards after the catch.
You're pretty darn good. Yeah, pretty darn good. And that was the style of defense that we're playing. It was a lot of zones that we call it catch and knife. Catch the ball and then look to get vertical right away. Knife that thing right through the defense so that rather than running sideways and we'll get an extra 3, 4, 5 yards that way.
All right, defense, got to give them love too here. Now tied with Jacksonville, 12 takeaways, number 1 in the NFL. But some quick individuals. You touched on TJ, you touched on Kyler, but how about Shamar Turner playing a lot of defensive end?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we moved him on out there, and I think he really took to it. He's got a little bit more size than some of our other DNs there, and so we think that's going to be able to help us in the run game, not only last night but also in the future here. I think there's some merit to keeping them out there, and particularly when our interior guys are holding up as well as they are. So it was an encouraging first performance with them on the perimeter there.
So it's kind of like-minded packages galore on defense, packages galore on offense with this football team.
Oh yeah, and I think the best thing about it is we'll continue to morph those as we go. How are guys practicing? What do we need to do that particular week? And so it kind of ebbs and it flows, and guys are earning their spots.
All right. I know you barely got into New Orleans, so another first-year head coach. Your familiarity with Kellen Moore, and Spencer Rattler.
I've gone against him as a coordinator once. I think he was in L.A. with the Chargers, and that was a shootout, and so. He's always done a great job coordinating offenses. He finds a way to put the defense in conflict and finds a way to put up points. And so I think what you see from this team right now is they keep getting better each week. I know what their record says, but these guys they're playing tough games. They're one-score games for the most part, and you can see tangible improvement each week. So this is not an opponent that we can let our guard down on. We got to be on top of our stuff. And to be quite honest with you, we haven't played quite as well as we're capable of yet. So I know we're not going to do that. So we're going to be in good shape here, but we're going to have to hone in and make sure we go back to square one on Wednesday.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Listen, man, I don't know what it is about Ben, but I love listening to him talk because he talks in a conversation about football and he doesn't use cliches. And I think if you really listen to the conversation of football, you learn something every time. I thought that I've been around football and I've been around and played for 5 Hall of Fame coaches. I've learned more about the thinking process of football in this short amount of time that I've been around Ben Johnson than I have in my lifetime. And I absolutely love it. And I love the conversations and your interviews with him because you become more educated after you listen to him.
So what are some of the things that you're talking about that you've learned?
That the game plans are week to week. That's not about necessarily what you do great. It's about what you suspect you can do against your next opponent. It's about the personnel groupings that we've become accustomed of. The analytics say this is what Ben does. And then you get into the game that he rarely does it. And, you wonder why. It's being able to have an understanding of why the running game was successful, because it was the way that the running back was hitting the holes. It was the way the offensive line was playing. He often refers to combination blocks and their effectiveness and their efficiency, which rarely the common viewer of sports do not pay attention to ace blocks and deuce blocks and double teams and combination blocks on the interior of the offensive line or even between the tackle and tight end. Making references to the way the tackles played and specifically Darnell Wright, the way he went out there and played. It's just, it's an education every time you talk to him. And I really get a kick out of it because as much as the game keeps me on the edge of my seat, so does the next interview with Ben Johnson.
Yeah, we think, comes in hot talking about 12 personnel, most used 12 personnel in the NFL coming in, all 11 personnel yesterday, at least a high volume. High volume, right. Based on the opponent. That's the great analytic on expectations of Ben Johnson. There's that other team that's over there, whomever he's playing. They're studying what the Chicago Bears have done and what he's done in his past as an offensive coordinator. So then they devise the scheme as how they're going to deploy their defensive assets against this personnel grouping that he uses the most of anybody. Then we go there on the road and he doesn't use it. It's incredible. And so, and then I enjoy the fact that he has these football conversations with Caleb, because to me, if you're Caleb, how can you not enjoy a conversation with a guy that has this tag of the way he understands what he wants to do with his people, and what he wants to do against his opponent. I got a kick out of last night in the post game when you asked him if if he goes back to some. He goes, "Oh, I rarely." Yeah, I'm shocked at that one. Explain that.
So the question is, he always talks about the reset button. And I said, okay, if you hit the reset button, do you hit the repeat button? He goes, no, I don't, because they have cameras or tablets over there as well. And I go to my next play. That actually blew me away. And I talked about it today with the other guys that have played in the NFL and talked about that answer, because to quote Mike Ditka, we'll run that play until they stop it.
Yeah.
And that's the type of bullheadedness that made Coach Ditka successful, but that's not the same way that Ben approaches it. And so opposite ends of the spectrum, you couldn't have a more glaring response from either guy.
Yeah, I think their big thing in this building, make the same look different and the different look the same.
Yeah.
Without using the same play.
I mean, I tell you what, that would be fun to put on the front of a T-shirt and the back of a T-shirt.
Yeah, for sure.
And people would read it and go, wow, that's pretty intense.
Hey, Bears fan, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in store and online at steinhoffels.com. I couldn't wait to bring this up with you. I'm going to focus on this in the Bears Game Day Live show that we'll have on Sunday before the Saints game. So Ben told Caleb, hey, go in that huddle. You tell that offensive line, we're putting it on their shoulders. We're going to run the ball. We're going to not let this team get the ball back. We're going to win. So you put the final 9-play, 36-yard drive on the offensive line. Run the ball to bleed the clock and set up Mooney. They answered the call. There was one pass. It was to Colston Loveland, and a big one for 6 yards. But the belief in the offensive line that you did in week 6 with a new starting left tackle and a returning Darnell Wright at right tackle after an injury, how much of a dividend will that pay for the rest of the season? Because they did pull it out and they did run the ball very efficiently.
Well, you lit that fuse again in the Dallas game when you had a 19-play drive and you had 11 straight runs. So you knew that this offensive line was capable of it at home. Did you know if they were capable of it on the road? And they stood up to their responsibility. They accepted it, and they went out there and they played at a really high level, because we talked about it all week. I really thought that this game was going to come down to the offense and defensive fronts and their physicality, and the Bears answered the bell, and they re-answered it, and they just did an incredible job. And so super proud of what that offensive line did.
Good news, Chicago United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. So on that Theo Benedict illegal formation penalty, what's your feeling as an offensive lineman on that? Would this be in the category of ticky-tack? Do other teams get away with things like this every week? And did he get away with anything?
There's an offensive tackle in the NFL that jumps off sides every play, and they don't call it. But if you would take a 2x4 that was however many feet in length that could go from the back heel of the right tackle to the back heel of the left tackle, and you looked at that plane, there was no difference in the stance of Darnell than there was of Theo. You know, we can't sit here and complain about the officials, but I did not agree with it. I didn't think Theo was egregiously out of position when I see other offensive tackles jump before the snap of the ball, and they never get called.
So what does that put into the head of an offensive lineman? And here's what I have to ask you. So, especially a young one. So he goes to the when you break the huddle and go to the line of scrimmage, you don't have time to look at the other offensive lineman where your heels are? How's this work?
No, you just got to know where your head has to be in relation to the plane of the football. There's a certain distance that you guys have to be from the midpoint of the center. And then, see, we were an offensive line, Jeff. We all lined up equally to Jay. Okay, not at an angle. You don't want to have the flying goose formation. That's what Dick Stanfield used to say.
Flying goose.
He wanted to have everybody up on the ball, and so nowadays the center kind of stands out amongst himself, and then the rest of the offensive linemen kind of cut his body in half, and that's where they all line up together. And so it's just a different of a technical approach by offensive lines nowadays. But again, I don't agree because if you go back and you look at the film and you look at the sideline copy of it and you look at right down the side, he's equal to the back foot of Darnell.
Good news, Chicago United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. All right, let's talk some defense. Personnel packages. Didn't get a lot of time to spend on that with Ben, but touched on Shamar Turner, and I thought the way he played was what made a difference. Physicality, violence on the edge.
Yeah, it makes a difference in a lot of different ways. So now you have that defensive end that can get into the rotation against a heavy run team or first and second down that can dominate tight ends, or if they they choose to put a wide receiver trying to block him. He's strong. He's got the ability. He's got a good innate ability to understand the snap count where he's making contact before the offensive player is making contact with him. He runs hard. He's got unbelievable pursuit. So there's a play where Gervon Dexter gets credited with the sack of pushing Jaden Daniels out of bounds. If you go back and you look at the defensive end on the opposite side of the field, who's running like a sprinter, and he's got the perfect pursuit angle. If Gervon didn't get him, Shamar Turner would have got him. But there's also a play where he's on the opposite side of the point of attack. The tight end has his as an assignment. Shamar Turner comes off the ball and he makes a separation with his right hand from the tight end. He never loses or gives up any ground. He pursues laterally and he ends up making the tackle. So you're making tackle of 4 holes away. You're separating yourself from the tight end because you're making contact before him. So these little types of things that we didn't get to see in Shamar because he had that early ankle sprain, they're showing us the reason that Ryan Poles picked him in the draft and why he went there.
All right, what was your impression? I wanted to ask Ben, but didn't have the opportunity, of Kyler Gordon's impact in his first game back, and ditto TJ Edwards. And let's throw in DeMarco Jackson, who had to go in for Noah Sewell, who suffered a concussion.
Well, I think this was a Dennis Allen game because he knew how to match up against their first down run defense, and that's having the 3 linebackers in there, and they often had a 6th offensive lineman in there. They had a good matchup when flowing to motion or not getting themselves out of position to create an opportunity or an escape hatch for Jaden Daniels. And they did a great job of really having multiple bodies at the running back by the time he got to the point of attack. So they didn't necessarily let a 2-yard run go to a 6-yard run. They kept a 2-yard run at a 2-yard run. And then when they got into whatever the down and distance was in 2nd and 3rd down, then they were able to pull out the linebacker and insert Kyler Gordon, and then use Kyler Gordon either as a coverage defensive back or a support defensive back at the 2nd level. And he's super creative in the way that he can rush the line of scrimmage because he's a difficult target. And throughout my course of time playing against defensive backs that had that type of creativity, they always put a little bit of vulnerability in the fact that you can't get over aggressive because they'll olay you like a bullfighter. And Kyler does a great job of that. So does Jaquan Brisker. And I think it's super beneficial to have that ability to be big against the run or be creative against the pass.
This podcast is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller Time Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Got to talk about Luther Burden, our friend Anthony Herron, who helps us out on Bears programming on Fox and does a lot of great things over the course of his career, both on SiriusXM for college football and also doing some college football games on television. Wrote about Luther Burden, and I am intrigued with every time he touches the ball. And he this is what he wrote: quiet hands, in and out suddenness, burst after the catch, natural gifts. Feels he's arguably potentially has the chance to be the most gifted. That's putting it in a nice little frame right there, and that's exactly how I feel. More touches coming for Luther Burden. He is an explosive player, man.
Well, you go back to your interview with Ben Johnson, and he talks about everything on this team is earned. It's the way you practice and the way you play. What is ever required out of you on a specific play or what your assignment is, that's the way you're going to earn more opportunities, and that's exactly what Luther Burden is doing. And all of those things that Anthony Herron said about him are true. And the more reps and the more familiarity that the quarterback and receiver can become with each other, the more opportunities he's going to present for himself. And that's what the great thing that I like about Ben is nothing is given, it's only earned. And if Luther Burden is on the field more, then you know that he's earning his opportunity. He's just not gifted this opportunity. So of everything that is said about him is correct. It's about the sustainability of work ethic that is got to be seen, because that so-called rookie wall hasn't come yet. And there's a lot of football to be played, and Luther has to have an important role in this offense.
I was really happy for DeAndre Swift, man. DeAndre Swift had himself a game, had himself a night, two-phase game, really strong. Loved how he attacked.
Me too. Everything, again, that Ben said about him in your interview, the way he was attacking the hole, how quickly he was hitting it, how physically he was willing to get, how he escaped that tackle on the sideline and turned it into a touchdown. And DeAndre Swift deserves a lot of respect in the NFL. I don't necessarily think on the national he gets it, or he gets what he deserves, but I think he proved to a lot of people on the biggest stage in NFL football that DeAndre Swift is an asset to your football team.
And Kyle Monangai ran well, too. He did, and Roshan had one crack at it. How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling me you're a Bears fan? Well, with the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. So we begin a stretch of 8 of the next 9 at noon, Tom. So, back-to-back home games coming up after what has been all kinds of scheduled times at this first part of the season. Can this team benefit from that? Can you settle in a little bit with the routine and knowing what's ahead, get out of bed, get to Soldier Field and take care of business, or the same thing on the road?
Well, you said it, routine. Routine in football and consecutive new starts is a lot like rhythm. And as much as the little picture of rhythm is knowing the cadence and knowing how to react and interact with your teammates, the routine and the rhythm of noon starts, there's a consistency to it. And probably the longest trip within those noon starts is going to be the Baltimore trip. Every other one of those noon starts are easy travelable games where you get home at a responsible hour, you leave at a responsible hour. So I just think this is the way the NFC North has been built on noon starts.
Yeah.
This is what we like the best, and the players, that's what they like the best as well.
New Orleans coming to town. It's a plucky bunch. They have a new head coach in Kellen Moore, first-year coach. As you heard from Ben Johnson, Spencer Rattler is doing a nice job at quarterback. They've got weapons. Let's not they got Chris Olave. They got Evan Kamara. They've got Rashid, the deep threat and an outstanding return man. And then on defense, a mix of quality veterans that are still getting the job done, and some new young players like Kool-Aid McKinstry at corner and Jonas Sanker at safety to go with Demario Davis and Cam Jordan. So how do you look at them at this early stage of your tape watching?
Listen, it's NFL respect.
Yeah.
The reason that these guys are playing in the NFL, the reason that Cam Jordan and the linebacker have had such long, successful careers, it's because they're great football players. You have a guy like Spencer Rattler, kind of reminds me of a poor man's Baker Mayfield. He's a super determined guy. He was highly thought of at one time in his college career, and now he's trying to earn his stripes again with the new head coach in Kellen Moore. Alvin Kamara, the guy is legit running the ball and catching the ball. They got speed at the wide receivers in multiple, forms and fashions. So I have a lot, and they have good offensive linemen.
Yeah, Eric McCoy at center is he's a good center.
And they got Ruiz, who played at University of Michigan, and so on and so forth. So if you sit there and think that you can disrespect an NFL opponent, then you're not going to last very long. So, I mean, no matter where the New Orleans Saints are coming from, maybe it's refreshing for them to get out of the 90-degree humidity and heat of New Orleans to come up and play on a natural grass outdoor surface like Chicago. So you better take them as serious as you would any opponent in the NFL.
It's going to be a fun. Crowd should be jacked up after a 3-game winning streak, and the Bears with the arrow up right now. Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. Be back with you later this week with a deeper dive on the Saints and maybe some surprises along the way, as always. That's going to do it for us. For Bears head coach Ben Johnson and Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the official Bears app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.